How are you with sharks? Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent worldwide on making beaches safer by protecting people from shark attacks. Huge engineering projects have been designed that have significant financial and ecological implications. The fear of the shark is deeply embedded in many societies, and so funding to design new solutions is quick to turn on. And yet, we can ask, has the problem been adequately framed? To what extent are cultural and cognitive biases prejudicing the design process for enhancing beach safety? More people die each year by many other risks, including riptides, sunstroke, bee stings, even collapsing sand holes, than they do by shark attacks. Is the psychology of beach safety affecting our ability to design safer beaches? Let's look at cognitive biases and other psychological effects that we need to be aware of as designers. Let's think clearly. This is ASU. Here's a question you might not expect. Why should you probably use a reusable grocery bag even though it's probably worse for the planet than a single-use one? When thinking as designers, we need to consider human behavior. People do not make choices purely off of conscious thoughts, which are the result of cognitively processing information in a rational way. Maybe this seems obvious to you. But in conversations about climate change, you will often encounter the admonition that we need to listen to the science. And we should. But we also should recognize that understanding information is not enough to change behavior. If perfect information and cold facts were enough to drive decision-making and thereby behavior, then advertising would not work, and there'd be a lot less need for design. So what's happening when listening to facts doesn't result in behavior change, even when one might seem warranted? At the intersection of psychology and economics, there's a line of research into what are called cognitive biases. These are patterns of thinking and behavior which are generalizable across human populations and which represent departures from rational decision-making. We are imperfect beings with limited information and limited capacity to process information. So if we are to design for behavior change, we have to design for people as they are, not for people as we imagine or wish them to be. How might an understanding of cognitive biases help us design for changing behavior around sustainability in the choices of shoppers in grocery stores, for instance? Single-use plastics, like disposable grocery bags, consume resources, are made of fossil fuels, and contribute waste to landfills. So your first thought might be to reduce use of single-use bags by simply not offering them. But this would be super inconvenient for your customers, and while you might change their behavior, it might be to drive them to shop at one of your competitors. Design sits at the intersection of technological possibility, customer desirability, and business viability. So this idea neither works for the proprietor of the single store, nor does it actually change the impacts of the consumption patterns of the shoppers. Maybe your next thought is to launch an informational campaign in your store, where you'll regale your patrons with the harms and horrors of single-use grocery bags. Load them up with statistics and data. But from a perspective informed by an understanding of human cognitive biases, which is to say, an empathetic perspective on your customer's individual lived experience, you can probably quickly see that this intervention will also not have the desired effect. Your customers have confirmation bias and retain information that already conforms to their worldview. And even if they stop in their busy day to listen, they are unlikely to change their view on any given topic. But let's imagine someone who does stop and read, someone who really nerds out about the environmental impact of reusable bags. They would quickly learn that most individual reusable bags have a higher environmental impact in terms of things like fresh water usage and contributing to greenhouse gas emissions than each single super thin and light single-use bag. So a reusable bag needs to be used several times. The amount varies significantly depending on what the reusable bag is made of, for the net impact on the environment to be better than just using single-use bags. And most people simply do not use the reusable bags that they have bought enough times before likely stuffing them in a closet for their use to actually be less impactful than if they had just stuck with the single-use bags. But let's zoom back out. Our goal as the proprietor of this imaginary store wasn't to stop providing single-use bags, it was to nurture sustainability in our clientele. With our design approach, informed by an understanding of cognitive human factors, maybe we put the reusable bags prominently on display at the checkout counter, give them away, or sell them at reduced cost. We have a strong drive to be in harmony with the people we see around us. So just seeing the reusable bags, so highly associated with sustainable behavior, and seeing more people using them establishes a norm that this is a community that cares about environmental impacts. So actually, by the numbers, if you buy and use reusable bags like most people, you should probably not use reusable grocery bags at the grocery store. But if you think like most people, you probably should use a reusable grocery bag to drive collective behavior change in a design-informed way. An early intervention to prevent shark attacks was the practice of culling. This approach reduced the shark population, and thus opportunities for sharks and humans to conflict. But it also had damaging, unintended consequences, not just to the survival of shark species, but even to commercial fishing through negative impacts to the overall ecosystem. It seemed like a straightforward answer to a straightforward question. But did it really make humans any safer? Decades later, designers and engineers have found ways to reconsider how we look at sharks, opening up new solutions to redirect behavior for both sharks and humans. These toothy creatures aren't just adversarial objects of fear for beachgoers. They have their own place in our oceans. What new solutions will we find when we confront biases and design empathetically for human behavior? This was ASU. Thanks for watching.